Welcome back to another episode of the Rear Wing Report. Today we are going to be recapping the Spanish Grand Prix. We're going to be looking at our top three of Piastri, Norris, and Leclerc. Also, some standout races from those in the midfield, as well as all the drama surrounding Verstappen and Lance Stroll and Lewis Hamilton. Also, what's going on with Mercedes and their engines, and finally, the FIA's front wing technical directive. And as always, to do it with me is the Qster.
Hey, buddy. How we doing?
I'm doing well. Hey, before we get started, why don't we remind people, since they love us so much and they're listening to us right now, where can they contact us and interact with us even more?
Hit us up on socials. Easiest way is definitely like Instagram DMs. It's the one social media account that we're probably the most active on. So hit us up on Instagram. If you want an inquiry with the podcast, though, if you want to, sponsor us, anything like that, we do have an email account. But for the fans, interact with us online. Interact with us on Instagram, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. But for any like inquiries or like business, anything like that, you can always send us an email at therearwingpod@gmail.com. Okay. But that is for inquiries. Okay. So send us some
shout out to our listener who sent us a really nice Instagram DM with some thoughts, some feedback, and some encouragement.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that.
We won't share their name, but you know who you are. If you want us to share your name, then just let us know. But we don't want to dox you.
Yeah.
Without your consent. So. All right. Actually, Ryan, I do have an update for you. I did get, I know that I'm in charge of the email this week. I did get an email. We do actually have a advertisement this week. So that'll be coming up. We have our first ad read.
What?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So we're going to do it after the first break here. So I think you'll like it.
Fun. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Dude, I loved it because I texted you yesterday and I was just like, we have so much to talk about, which is just different than the past couple of weeks. I feel like we've kind of had to pull straws sometimes where it's like, oh, there's not that much going on, but we had a lot going on this week. But let's start just with our regular old overview. So we had some predictions. We'll get to those a little bit later on, but our top three were Piastri, Norris, and Leclerc. We saw a little bit of drama at the end of the race, being under a safety car, which managed to allow Leclerc get up into P3. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on. But what did you overall think about the race?
I thought Oscar Piastri put on a masterclass. I think that the conversation rightfully should start and end with him. I know that everybody wants to talk about it, and a lot of the conversation was focused around the extracurriculars on the track and then after the race with Max Verstappen and others. But I think that Verstappen, Piastri really kind of showed the progress that he's had over the past year or so. He really struggled with tire degradation the last few races of last year at this point in time. And he struggled qualifying at the Spanish Grand Prix. I think he was 10th both times. And to see him not only clearly be at the top of the pace almost the entire weekend, pull out a nice gap between him and Norris in qualifying, and then to have a great start and then manage those tires. And it was a masterclass of driving. Like, I think that this is why it's evident that McLaren paid the penalty that they did and really was so committed to getting Piastri away from Alpine. Like, everything he did was picture perfect the entire weekend. He managed the pace. Norris starts to get the gap down. Like on the TV, they were like, hey, 2.7, it's dropping. And then I sat at 2.7, and then he just kind of pulled out another 2 seconds. And I think if the safety car hadn't come out, he would have probably comfortably won the race by about 6 to 7 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I completely agree with you. And some might say that we're probably a little bit too hard on our runner up for the race, being Lando Norris. We're speaking relatively, right? Like the only person we can necessarily compare Oscar Piastri to is Lando, right? So we might seem really critical of both of them. Like obviously they're both having outstanding seasons, but one thing, like as I was watching the race yesterday, I was just listening to Nico Rosberg talking about Piastri versus Lando, right? And it's like he kind of reiterated some of the things that we've talked about over the past couple of weeks, where like Oscar doesn't make mistakes, right? And we saw that throughout the entire Grand Prix. Like he just doesn't mess up, right? Like even if you go all the way back to qualifying, right? That those last laps that both of the McLarens put in, Piastri was just like he's like a smooth criminal, dude. Like he just kind of transitions into like the corners really well. He's not snappy. He's not having to fight the car or anything like that. And Lando is right. And Lando was like, and this is even going back to what Rosberg said is like Lando's like snapping around the corners, like he's going all out. I mean, when he like tries to like push that pedal down to the like to the metal essentially, that he starts to get like that understeer, and he just doesn't drive the car that well, right? And that is kind of like where we have to differentiate the two is like usually I think what we're going to see is if one of them out qualifies the other, that's just how it's going to be in the race because the cars are so similar. Like that's just where things are going to end up. And you know, Oscar now has a 10-point lead on his teammate, right? It was cut down to 2 points, right? Or is it one, three? Okay, all right, all over the place there. But yeah, like we're seeing that gap kind of thin out a little bit more, but it goes up and down. It's fluctuating a lot over the past couple of weeks. So yeah, Piastri drove the absolute wheels off the car, but Lando had a strong performance too, right? He couldn't necessarily challenge Piastri for the lead. Like his best chance was probably after that safety car. But one thing I do have to give Lando props for is while I was watching qualifying, he kind of sneakily took a toe off of Oscar's car, which I thought was really interesting. I don't think it was his engineer that did that because the team can't do that. So I think he strategically is playing his car like he's showing that like veteran esque kind of like thinking of like here's how I'm gonna win and here's how I'm gonna beat my teammate. We just haven't seen that like on track battle that we've been kind of hoping for over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree. I think that you said he can't really necessarily challenge him for the race lead, and I think that kind of just speaks to how evenly matched they are as
Mm-hmm.
drivers as well, right? Like they're driving the same car or almost exactly the same car, and it really does come down to whoever's gonna get the most out of qualifying, or maybe they set the car up differently, for the race instead of qualifying, etc. Um, and that would ultimately make the difference. But it seemed like they set the car up pretty much the exact same way, and so it's just interesting to see how they approach, the coming races. If the car is that consistently even between the two of them, if I'm either one of them, I think I might really prioritize qualifying, and then they're just like, hey, you know what? I'm really going to hope I can get away with a great start, and then just try and hide for the rest of the race. I just don't. I don't know if either one of them is such an outsized talent compared to the other one that we're going to see the driver make a difference in this
Mm-hmm.
case.
Yeah.
So
What did you think about Charles' race?
I thought it was really interesting. He kind of owned up to it on Saturday. He said, I sacrificed Saturday for Sunday. Um, he didn't he didn't run like every qualifying lap that he could have. He held an extra set of softs.
Mm-hmm.
And the team pushed back against it and was like, no, you shouldn't do that. And he's like, you know what? If it works out, I'm happy to take the credit. If it doesn't work out, I'm happy to take the blame.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that he did as well as he could have, right? There's no way he gets anything higher than third because the Ferrari is just not there on pace with the McLaren. And I think that he pretty much nailed the strategy. He was able to make the tires last, and he just kind of kept his nose clean, which is basically he did what we've praised again George Russell for doing, which is, hey, you know what? I'm just going to stay out of trouble in this race, and I'm going to clean up the extra points. So I thought it was a great job by him. What did you come away with thinking about from him?
Yeah, I mean, he's on the podium, like you said. Like that's the best result that the Ferraris are gonna get. So it is what it is. I do think that he shouldn't have been competing for a podium, granted what was going on over in a different garage. So I think it didn't involve a little bit of luck, but like the pace was there to keep up with, Max Verstappen and some of the other cars that we saw there. Like, he was keeping up with or staying ahead of George Russell. So like we saw like some actual pace coming out of him, and I thought it was good. And he secured valuable points for Ferrari, and Ferrari is now second in the constructors, so like
Wait, who did you think should have been in third then?
Verstappen.
No.
He could have gotten second, and you can't tell me
No, he
other
couldn't
than that.
have. Stop it.
Okay, we'll talk about it later, and I'll give you my reasons, but...
Yeah, okay. Make sure you give somebody the drugs you're smoking, too. You're insane.
We had some other notable performances as well in our top 10. Go over to my favorite team, right, being Kick Sauber. Nico Hülkenberg finishes 5th. Pretty interesting. Yeah. Do we see any progress with that car there, you think? Or is that just like a one-off?
I think there's some progress with the car, right? Our most popular choice for last place, Gabriel Bortoleto, he finished 12th, and was 26 seconds off the pace, which I know it sounds like a lot, obviously, but you look back and, Fernando Alonso's 21 seconds off the pace. Like the first non-McLaren was 10 and a half seconds off of the pace that Piastri set.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say they've turned a corner, but I think maybe they've made some solid progress, and also, some other teams struggling. They were in position to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Hülkenberg had a great weekend. 5th place after some penalties are handed out. Like, that's a great job. And he was competitive like all weekend long. And like the way that he got into 5th was just interesting, because if you look at qualifying, he qualifies 16th, and he effectively moves up to 15th after Lance Stroll doesn't start the race. But I mean, he got it done, and he was like relatively quickly in contention, for a top 7 finish. It seemed like almost immediately. So I was highly impressed by him.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and the thing that really gets me is that when we get to our like qualifying, Bortoleto had a good weekend too, right? Like we kind of, I think we are seeing a little bit of progress with their car. They were all the way down towards the bottom with the Alpines. Now they're tied, which is impressive, with Aston Martin, which they've had one driver kind of score points and up until this weekend. So I think it was a good result for them. I mean, it was super cool to like kind of see the weekend that Hülkenberg was having, at least, but it was also exciting to kind of see what Bortoleto was able to do, kind of keep that car not in, the 14, 15, 16, 17, 18s and higher, than this week. So I thought that was really cool. But we also had another impressive drive by a Sir Isaac Hadjar. He's not actually a sir, but
I was gonna say, wow, just throwing that out there. I didn't realize you're podcasting with the Queen now, or I guess it's the King, right? The Queen is R.I.P. Do you have the ability to knight people?
I wish. That'd be so cool. I would knight myself right away if that's possible.
Can you? I was gonna say, can you do that?
I don't know. I actually don't.
Well, hey, if anybody knows, let us know. Reach out to us. Let us know if you can knight yourself. I can't imagine you couldn't, but I don't know why you would. I feel like if you're in the position to be able to knight people, it's probably a step lower than whatever you are. So
you cannot knight yourself.
Of course, it's England. We don't want to have any fun. Sure. There we go. But yeah, Isaac Hadjar. Let's move on to him. Soon to be Sir Isaac Hadjar. He he qualified, I think, ninth and finished seventh,
Mm-hmm.
16 seconds off the pace. But, again, wildly impressive. And if he's not careful, he's going to end up in that second Red Bull seat.
Yeah, you don't want that to happen if you're him.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on his race?
I thought it was really interesting, and I thought it was really cool to kind of see him, like, because we didn't see a lot of racing up at the front, until the last 10 laps. But in that midfield and like the back end of the runners, like he was fighting against seasoned veterans, right? Specifically Fernando Alonso, and he's like putting in like good moves against him. Like we saw his racecraft kind of pop up a lot this weekend, which I found was really interesting, right? And like I would say he's like, I don't know, like I have a hard time saying that Isaac Hadjar's not the most impressive rookie. Like I think he truly like is, like, because he shows the mentality that he has. He kind of just puts his head down and he does what he needs to do, and he stays out of the limelight. Like other than like last week in Monaco when somebody was mentioned something to him and you could see that he was visually upset by it, but like, he's like that one guy that he's just going to do what he needs to do, which is like what you need to do if you're in a Red Bull car, but I don't want him to end up in that car. So, yeah, I mean, I'm thoroughly impressed. Like, it's a good result from him. And he just is just like Max Verstappen. He's kind of putting the team on his back. Like he's just scoring all those points. I think it's like 9 points or 8 points or something like that, that he hasn't scored for the Racing Bulls, which is impressive, right? As a rookie.
Yeah. I agree with you. He's probably the most impressive rookie in terms of consistency for sure. So, yeah, thoroughly impressed by him. Again, I called it beginning of the year. You're all welcome. But I don't have much to add to that. Like, I think you nailed it.
Yeah. And then one last person with an impressive race, Fernando Alonso.
Ugh. Yeah.
You almost hit on a bet with him.
I know.
But I said no.
Yeah. Yeah. Although he made it look like it was a long shot. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
And he was originally P10. He moves up to P9 after Max gets the penalty. But yeah, I know you on the rundown here, you put, is he back? He never left after he came back from his sojourn out into IndyCar and, his kind of just time off, right? He's been consistent. I think the car just isn't there and he's been very unlucky. But it's like to me, him driving that car is like when a popular band kind of falls off, right? Mm-hmm. And then they're like, oh, hey, we recorded this theme song. Like I think Simple Plan was like really massive when I was in high school, right? Yeah. They were like one of the bands. And then they fell off. And then the next thing you know, they're like, oh, hey, we recorded this Scooby-Doo theme song. And you're like, wait, that's what you're doing now? And like Fernando Alonso, it's like, hey, I was a two-time world drivers champion. I was competing for race wins, on and on and on. Now I'm getting beat by Lance Stroll. Like, wait, what?
Yeah. No, he's not back. I was trying to clickbait you a little bit and see what you had to say about it. So
oh, to be clear, he's back. And so is Simple Plan. They have a new album. Oh, well, it's newish. 2003, maybe 2004. Called Harder Than It Looks. First 3 songs, absolute bangers.
Yeah. I'll have to check them out. I've never heard of them before.
Oh, you have to.
Maybe. I'm not good with artists, or I have to hear lyrics, and then
if you listen to their songs, you'd recognize it. You'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like I guarantee you there's like 4 songs. I'm Just a Kid, but Life is a Nightmare. Yeah, you've heard it.
Yeah. But, all right. Well, we will. Do you want to give a little drivers' championship update? You want to get into that?
Yeah, we'll get into we'll kind of go over those standings and then we'll take our first break here. Okay. But so our championship standing updates for drivers' championship, we have Piastri in first on 186 points. Norris is in second. He's 10 points back. Verstappen is in third. He is sitting at 137 points, so he is 49 points back. And then Russell is in fourth. He is 75 points back. Leclerc is in fifth with 91. Hamilton in sixth with 71. Antonelli in seventh with 48. Albon in 8th with 42. Hadjar's in 9th with 21, and Ocon rounds out our top 10
Quizzing
with
you
20
on
points.
your Roman numerals there.
Yeah, that was screwy. And then I got messed up between Antonelli with 48 and then going 2-8 with Albon. And then our constructor standings, McLaren running away and hiding with this thing right now.
Yeah.
First with 362 points. Ferrari sitting in second. They are. I'm not even going to try and do the math. I know it's almost 200 points. It's 197 points. That they're back. They are sitting at 165. Mercedes has fallen to third with 159. Red Bull's in fourth with 144. Sorry, that's Max Verstappen's in fourth with 144. Williams is still in fifth with 54. Racing Bulls is sixth with 28. Haas is tied with them, but sits in seventh. Or I'm sorry, they're not tied. They're 2 points back in 26. And then Kick Sauber and Aston Martin are tied at 8th and 9th with 16. And Alpine is bringing up the rear with 11 points.
Yeah, I wouldn't just looking at the Constructors' Championship, I feel like it's pretty much going to remain the same from McLaren all the way down to Williams. I don't think much of it's going to change throughout the rest of the year. But I think it will be interesting to look at like the Racing Bulls down to Aston Martin to kind of see who gets that 6th spot. I think that's like where the most interesting things we're going to see happen throughout the rest of the year.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see the Williams and the Racing Bulls switching spots, but I don't think that the rest of that top 5 is going to really change one way or the other. So, well, Ryan, when we come back, we're going to be talking about all the drama on and off the track at the Spanish GP. But first, we have our first ad read.
Let's do it.
All right. Have you or a loved one been wronged or harmed? Have you been personally victimized by a smarmy British man? Well, then Max Verstappen's bumper car race car is for you. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. If you have a score to settle, just go on down to Max Verstappen's bumper car race cars, and you can drive into your opponent like a madman and suffer almost no repercussions. Once again, Max Verstappen's bumper car race cars is not condoning the actions of Max Verstappen. However, you are free to drive like a madman and have no consequences, just like Max Verstappen. There you go. It's not actually a paid advertisement.
You baited me into that. I was like, wow, this is going to be really impressive. And then, I caught on to the bit there.
I wanted to get like a little track laid down, a little bit background music. And I had a script written up, but lost the script, had practice this morning for basketball. So I called it a day and just did it off the top of the head. But yeah, I loved how excited you were.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Maddie even looked over at me and she was like, she went like this. And I was like, yeah.
There you go.
To me, Maddie. He lied.
Well, hey, you know what? The one way we could really start making money is if you started showing your feet.
True. I did do that on one episode, so on accident. But it is what it is. All right, we're going to take accident. We're going to take a quick break here. And then when we get back, we're going to talk drama from this past weekend.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are not talking drama as in Johnny Drama. We are talking drama as in the Spanish GP and Max Verstappen. Ryan, I think the place that I'd like to begin is just by asking you, what the heck happened?
What the heck happened is, there's a lot to break down. So, forgive me, I'm not going to remember the lap number and stuff like that, but
there's 3 laps from the end, but please just remember Max Verstappen is tangentially a sponsor now, so.
True. So we were under a safety car after Kimi Antonelli's power unit goes out, which the pecking order was Piastri, Norris, Verstappen, Leclerc. And most, we all know that during these safety cars, it gives everybody an opportunity to pit, which most teams opted into putting their drivers onto soft compounds. Even some of them were a little bit older tires from qualifying and everything like that. The Red Bull garage decided to do something a little bit different, and opted to put Max Verstappen on the hard tire compound. If you know, and just to explain a little bit, the hard tire compound lasts longer, but it takes a lot longer to warm up, right? So it's not as grippy. It's a little bit harder to make those turns. And we even saw that on the restart when Max Verstappen came around like that last turn, turn 16, and onto that final straight. He completely like, I, I don't even know what you. It's not, was that a 90-degree spin, probably something like that. Like his car completely snapped. Like I'm surprised he didn't just like fling around, but that just shows like his driving. So Verstappen kind of spins out, but he's on a hard tire compound. As the restart happens, though, the cars behind him are much faster because they have more grip on the soft tires, and Charles Leclerc makes a pass onto Verstappen, and Verstappen gave a little love tap that he liked to say that Charles did to him. So he was already complaining about this. Verstappen is eventually passed by Leclerc. It happens. He goes through. And then a little bit later on, George Russell also tried to kind of dive bomb into the corner. Him and Verstappen make a little bit of a touch. Verstappen stays ahead. He's driving, and then the engineer pops up and says, "Hey, Max, please give that position back to George. George. George then gets the message that, hey, they're going to let you pass. Verstappen does slow down, but goes into the corner and just completely smacks into the side of George Russell. Obviously ends up giving him a penalty. It was a 10-second penalty. And Verstappen is now actually 1 point away from being disqualified from a race. I don't know if I explained that very well, but
No, you did. I just meant, why did Max Verstappen decide to use his car as a battering ram?
Maybe he was advocating for his new business that apparently we're sponsoring.
No, they're sponsoring us.
There's so much to break down with it. Like, let's just go back to the decision of Red Bull. Why? Yeah. And this is me. My perspective of it. Why are they even pitting him in the first place?
So yeah, that's funny. I had the same question written down to ask you. Like, would you have pitted him? I think that no matter what they did, third was gonna be the best result he could hope for, and I don't think third was realistic. I know that you and your drug addiction think that he could have gotten third and possibly second, but if you leave him out, his tires are worn, like, and he's got to refire them. I just don't think he's going to be able to hold on. His pace was dropping off towards the end of that anyways. So if I'm Red Bull, and he'd been asking, if you go back and you listen to the radio messages, he was asking for fresh tires. I just don't think he realized the only tires they had left were the hard tires, right? Like,
yeah.
And you see a lot of really dumb people, pardon this just bluntness, you see a lot of dumb people on Twitter who are like, we need to start having some really difficult conversations about the Red Bull chief strategist. I forget her name off the top of my head. I think it's Hannah something. But like, because she's a woman, we got to have this tough conversation. Like, they nailed the strategy. They had the 3-stop race, and they were in contention and putting pressure on both McLarens because of the strategy. They just got screwed by the safety car. And so I think it was one of those, like, if you keep him out there, sure, he has track position, but he's going to be passed, at least by both McLarens, probably by Leclerc, because Leclerc held back tires. Like, he was ready to go. And if you pit him in, like, hey, you got fresh hards, but they are difficult to fire up, as we saw. Like, I don't think it mattered what they were doing. I would have kept him out. I would have kept him out and said, you know what, defend. And yeah, you know what, you might be able to eke third out here, and we'll go from there. But you're definitely not going to be under pressure from both Leclerc and Russell, right? Like, It just makes more sense to me. So that's the part I didn't understand. But then when you have the guy in the cockpit telling you, I want fresh tires, you give him fresh tires.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I agree. I would have kept him out. Like I think you would have had a better opportunity to defend. Like he is one of the best defenders because he is so aggressive. Most people don't want to try to overtake him, especially in like the later laps of the race. Um, and just to go back, Hannah Schmitz is the chief strategist, so had her name right, but we'll give her credit. And yeah, it is crazy how like sexist people are on X. Like just over the past few weeks, they've been kind of going at her, which is just unnecessary. But yeah, like I think you keep Max out, right, and see what he can do. Like there's no way he would have been able to get the hards warmed up in time at all. Like it was just impossible, right? And I just think it was a bad call. But again, like you said, if your driver's saying, hey, I need a box for new tires, you probably should give him the options that you have, though.
Yeah.
Granted, he probably should know himself, but like still he's driving a car 200 miles per hour. We're under a delta, so not that fast, but like he's driving the car, he's not thinking about that. You got to give him his options. So yeah, that was complicated in itself. And then like just after the restart happens, right, he claims that Leclerc is hit him, right, and under the replay you could clearly see the only person that was moving in that sequence was Max, and he just right into the like the side of Charles Leclerc, which I thought was funny. And he's going, oh, like that is he's complaining, right? All that
Oh,
kind of
see,
stuff.
I thought Leclerc did hit him, but I think it was a racing incident. Like, and Leclerc even said, like in the cool down room, he's like, yeah, I was trying to push him left. And then did you see the screen grab of when they're on the interview couch? It's Norris and Leclerc and Piastri, and they're sitting on the interview couch, and then they're like, "Hey, Charles, you've been summoned by the stewards." Did you see the face that he makes?
Uh-uh.
He like looks at Norris and he's like he kind of knows what he did, but I don't think it was worthy of a penalty because I think they were both
No.
kind of just jockeying for position. But I think the more frustrating part, if I'm Max Verstappen or I'm Red Bull, we'll get into the George Russell incident in a second, is the first George Russell incident where Russell kind of dives down the inside. There's a gap there. I don't think the move is crazy. Like the move is on, but and they did a really good job of breaking this down on like the checkered flag portion of the show after the race. And he kind of explained like, hey, here are the three things that you need. You need to be inside the track limits. You have to have your front axle, at or beyond the mirror. He has both of those elements, so he can race with Max, but he also has to keep the car under control. And he gets all this turbulence off of Leclerc's car, and that kind of pushes him, which pushes Max. Max leaves, takes the escape route, and then stays ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And then GP comes on and is like, hey, you need to give the place back to Russell, which is infuriating. You could tell Max was furious about it, but like even while I was watching it, I was watching with my son and I was trying to explain to him, and I was like, I don't know why they're telling him to give the position
Yeah,
back.
he
Though.
shouldn't have. Like he shouldn't have
Yeah.
been. Like it was the wrong call by them.
Yeah, and the stewards then came out and said like we would not have told him, we would not have penalized him.
Yeah.
Which then leads to what can only be described as a terrorist incident by Max Verstappen.
Oh my gosh.
That's what he slowed down, lined him up, and then deliberately ran into him.
So we're under the lens that it was intentional.
Yeah. When he refused to go, no, it wasn't intentional, that told me everything I needed to. And then when he puts out his Instagram post this morning saying like, after further reflection, the move was unnecessary and should not have been done. Like
I did not see that.
He did everything except say, I did this on purpose, but he clearly did it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other part of the question that I have for you, though, is do you think that they got the punishment right?
Yeah, I'd say it's fair. I don't know. I'm like a disqualification to me would have been crazy. I don't think it was enough to do that. Like, I just, because that's what other people are saying is he should have been DQ'd. I don't think so. Like, to me, I don't know. It's hard to say because we're not the ones behind that car. Um, the only precedent we have is Verstappen running into the back of Lewis Hamilton like 4 years ago, right? And what was do you remember what the penalty was for that?
No, it was Verstappen slowed down like abnormally to let Hamilton pass to give the place back.
And then slammed into the back of him.
Hamilton slammed into the back of Verstappen.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you said it differently.
Sorry, I might have been phrasing that weirdly.
You're okay. We're okay. But I don't remember what exactly the penalty was for it. But like I go back to, like Michael Schumacher was given a 2-race ban in I think it was 1994. He overtook, I think it was Damon Hill, like during the formation lap. He ignored the penalty. They then gave him a black flag and he ignored that too. And he was disqualified from the race and given a 2-race ban. Right? Like, I don't understand why we're allowing someone to, at racing speeds, use their car as a torpedo. Like, it makes no sense. And then just going, oh, well, 3 penalty points, 10-second time penalty. Or like 1997, Schumacher and Jacques Villeneuve, collide. And I believe that the penalty overall was like all of Schumacher's.
He had to forfeit all of his points, didn't he?
Yeah, and he was disqualified from the championship.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think that saying that he should have been given a black flag is the least of what should have happened. Like, you're only talking about the difference of 1 point at that point. Like, I don't think that you can sit there and go, oh my goodness, that's such a big step. I think it should have been a black flag. And I think he either should have gotten 4 penalty points, so he's banned for the next race, or they should have given him a race ban. Like, it's wildly dangerous. It's unprofessional. It's unbecoming of the sport. Like, and I know, everybody's giving George Russell a hard time saying, like, what if the children were watching? And Max is like, well, I'll bring tissues.
Yeah, I'll bring the tissues for you next time too. I'm just kidding.
But like, that's not racing. Again, that's terrorism.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that kind of what I don't know, like, do you think Max is to blame for all of this?
Well, I think Max and his team.
Okay, I didn't know if you felt like it was more so like, hey, this isn't all on him, or if this is all on him.
No, the action is all on him.
Yeah, I mean, he's the one behind the wheel, right?
Yes, it's the way I parent my kids, right? Like, you are in control of your emotions and you are in control of your reaction and how you respond to things. You might not have been responsible for everything that led up to it, but you're responsible for your response to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And he acted like a child. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
I just like. Do you know what you get a black flag for?
What do you mean? Like, what you would have to do to
get a black flag? Yeah.
Not necessarily, I guess.
It's a serious infraction.
Okay, so using your car as a torpedo.
A breach of rules, a serious breach of rules, or dangerous driving.
I feel like I need to go back and watch it again.
Okay. I'll tell you, you can go back and watch it, but here's what you're going to see. You're going to see him slow down. You're going to see him, and of course we don't have the cockpit view of it, but you're going to see him slow down, wait till George starts to turn, and then he's going to accelerate into him like he's a boat out of the movie Ben-Hur, right? And they're just using the battering ram. Like, it was ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what he was doing. Well, I know what he was doing. He was acting like a child. And I think, like, I'm sitting here and I'm like kind of crapping on him, but I think it also is what makes him
Him.
him.
That's
Yeah,
what I was gonna
like
say. I'm like this. That's like the mentality of like a Senna, a Schumacher, a Verstappen, right? Is like you're gonna do what you have to do. I get it. It was obviously the wrong move. Like he absolutely lost his mind. Like
yeah, and now
there,
he's
like the
49
amount
points
of
back.
anger like through those radio transmissions were just crazy to hear. Like you could just hear the frustration in his voice, and like I don't know if I've ever heard him that mad behind, like behind it before. But like, yeah, that is kind of the mentality that you know they're gonna have. So
Yeah, it's what you have to have in order to be great. Like
yeah.
you have to take everything personally. It's Michael Jordan all over again, right?
Hmm.
Like it just, and I'm okay with that, but don't go whining and complaining about it and own it. Be like, yeah, I did it. I was pissed off. Like, and honestly, I think that would be really effective if you did that. Like, hey, he already said he's not winning the drivers' championship this year, anyways. So own it. Be honest about it. You're gonna make people even more cautious driving you, and you'll probably benefit from it in the end with some psychological warfare. I
Yeah.
just don't. I don't know. I
Do you think it was the right spot for Russell to try to go around him on that turn?
Yes, because he slowed down. He moved to the inside. Like that's what pissed me off so much about it. And I was just like, "Are you serious?" And like again, fine, do that, but then the FIA needs to step in and actually put some sort of real penalty, not just, oh, Max, you get a 10-second time penalty and 3 penalty points. You know they're not going to give him any penalty points in the next 2 races. Like it means nothing. You know what I mean? Like that's
Did you
like
hear
being like when he said it was sim racing or iRacing.
George yelled "duh" out loud on it right as soon as Max hit him. So, um, yeah, I mean, I as you were talking, I was kind of just sitting here replaying it over and over again, kind of like look at some different things.
Mhm.
Yeah, like if you watch Russell's onboard, you can clearly see like, hey, you're letting me pass. I'm taking this line. You fall in behind me, and he just dive bombed in from the side. So
Yeah,
I'm on board with you now.
he didn't even turn his wheel
No, he was
until he
going
was
straight.
about to hit him. And then he's like,
Yeah,
I probably don't want to damage my front wing. I better turn. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Lots of
It was,
emotion.
yeah, it was wild.
It was a dramatic weekend.
It was drama, drama, drama.
Drama,
But,
drama, drama.
um, real quick, do you think this is better for the Red Bull engineers and strategists? Do you think this is better for like GP? Um, now that Max used his car in a terrorist attack, like, does it take the heat off of him? Like, because like, let's say Max gives the place back, he's not getting that place back from Russell again.
Hmm.
So then they go into their post race meeting, and he's going to find out he didn't have to give the place back. But that's not going to be a fun place for GP to be. But now that again he's gone and just decided to drive into somebody else, do you think that it's better for GP because he can go, hey, listen, this is what I thought, but you cost yourself way more points.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like, I think he goes, you made the wrong decision. I might have, like, given you, it would have been the same kind of thing, anyways, but like, you would have finished P4 or P5
P5.
rather than, P10. And the one thing that was getting me yesterday was the exit clause talks after this incident going,
Oh, like he did it on
Max
purpose.
did this on purpose. He did this on purpose. He wanted to intentionally crash into Russell, knowing he would get a 10-second time penalty, which would knock him down enough where he can get the exit clause of his contract. Which I was like, whoa, there's conspiracy theories on X right now about Max Verstappen's crash. Like, it was crazy.
We'll know it's true if, like, at the start of is Austria next?
Canada.
Oh, that's right, Canada. Well, no, it's true if at the start of Canada, like he just angles his car and just launches into like, Gabriel Bortoletto or Isaac Hadjar. He just qualifies in the McLaren. And is just like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah. I
Because
mean, it's just wild.
he needs Russell to keep climbing
Mm-hmm.
in order to trigger that exit clause. So he
Yeah.
can't be Russell again. I like that though. That's fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Um,
In
but
more
yes,
drama news, though.
yeah.
let's talk a little bit about Lance Stroll.
Oh,
Um,
I know why you put this on here. All right, go ahead.
so
Lay it.
so
Make your pitch.
so Lance Stroll had a little incident after Q2 where he went in allegedly. This is all alleged, you know. He walked into the garage and he proceeded to curse and throw equipment around the garage. At the mechanics and all that kind of stuff. He did not check in at the scales after Q2. The FIA gave him a warning for it because he didn't report right away to it. But he did cite that it was because of the wrist pain that he was having. There's even a little like screenshot of Lance in the garage too after all this happens, where he's just like staring into the abyss. But so some people were saying like, oh, Lance is clearly frustrated, and this is why he's not racing. Like, I feel like people thought like Lawrence was like, hey, for your punishment, you're not going to be able to race tomorrow. Like he's pulling a dad move, like as a CEO of a company. But yeah, so Lance ends up not racing because he had already qualified, which gets rid of the reserve driver that he would have. Which would have been Felipe Drugovich. So Drugovich didn't get to race because Lance had already set his qualifying time, so they cannot have their reserve driver go in there at that point. But yeah, so he had a little emotional outburst after qualifying, damaged some equipment, swearing at team members, but Aston Martin reports that didn't happen. He was frustrated about the pain that he had in his wrist. And we've heard a lot about this wrist pain ever since his little incident on the bike where he broke both of his wrists.
Yeah, can I give you my conspiracy theory hot take on this?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, here's where I stand. And this is like a logical thought process exercise for me. I think that given everything that we know, the outburst did happen, right? And they say, oh, it's been going on for 6 weeks now. He never once in 6 weeks mentioned it, to my knowledge, in any sort of interview or interaction with the press or anybody else. He had plenty of opportunities to, especially at, during triple headers. Like, sure, your body's going to be sore, and like Piastri talked about, he's like, hey, I'm really excited for a week off. Like, it's going to be great. But none of it makes any sense. If you're in that much pain, nothing changes in the hour before qualifying and the hour after qualifying to make you go, you know what? I can't race this weekend. So I think what actually happened is the outburst happened. He was pissed. And like a petulant child, he punched a wall and re-broke his wrist.
Yeah, no, I can see that happening. That's kind of what I think too. So
yeah, like I there's no way to bet on it, but and again, it's all alleged. But if you came out and told me that story, I would not be surprised.
Yeah,
they were like, hey, here's what happened. We have grainy Zapruder film footage of Lance striking a wall. Yeah, I just now I've seen it floating around like, hey, we think he's done with F1 forever, and this is like a graceful way to bow out. Do you think that's happening?
No shot.
Not even if there was a certain.
I mean, I guess it depends on how your reserve driver does.
Yeah,
honestly, but your reserve driver might not be with Aston Martin next year. That's all I'm saying. Because if we're going with crazy theories here, if you didn't, Drugovich is racing in Le Mans. Can you guess what kind of car he's driving?
No.
A Cadillac.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, the other rumor that's flying around with that, I like that. That's a fun little tidbit. I did not know that. I was not aware, but I feel like Trump. What? I'm just hearing that for the first time now. But I was unaware. I think that the other interesting rumor is that they're talking to Sebastian Vettel about him deputizing and being the replacement driver for the next several races.
That would be crazy. You've been in a car in how long? 4 years now?
3 years, I think. Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, so I think that the craziest option is there's this little known driver, basically just an e-racing driver that Aston Martin has been hearing about recently, past like 3 or 4 months, making a lot of noise. His name's Ryan McHugh. He's been begging Lawrence Stroll for a seat. So, I think it'd be crazy to put him in the car, see how he does.
Dude, could you imagine me trying to hold on to one of those steering wheels? My wrist would break, probably. Like, it would be like, it would snap, and I'd be like, oh, I'm done.
I do
But Tom
want,
Segura's soft.
yeah, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. We'll maybe one day we'll do like a behind the scenes episode with some of the references here, but
Yeah.
I would like to see like just like maybe someone who's had a little bit of racing experience, like your brother, right? Your brother did go-karting,
Yeah.
like competitive go-karting. I'd love to see like your brother
Dirt bikes.
dirt bikes.
Yeah.
My bad. But still, like he understands racing lines and things like that. So I'd like to see like someone like that in like an F1 car, and like, hey, you get a couple laps, get up to speed. All right, go as fast as you possibly can.
Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, and then just compare it to everybody else, and like the true gap that there is would be interesting. But that's not the only gap that we need to talk about. The other gap that we'll talk about when we come back real quick is the gap between Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc.
Insert your ad here.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back one more time after that last sponsored ad read that you did for yourselves. We are going to be talking Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari. Ryan, Lewis Hamilton started in 5th place and finished in, do you remember?
8th? 7th?
It was 6th place.
6th. Okay, jeez.
Yeah. But the reason why I asked you is because
I'm not looking at my doc, so.
A, I didn't remember either off the top of my head. I had to go and check it earlier when I was prepping for this. And then B, it felt like he should have finished in like 8th or 9th place. He seemed to just have a terrible race.
Yeah, I mean, did you watch like the post-race interviews with him and stuff?
Yeah.
Like the man is depressed. Like, I feel bad for him. Like, but he's taking the sole blame for it, which to me is a little strange. You might disagree with me there.
I do disagree with you, but you're going to understand why I disagree with you in a minute. Okay. So why do you think that he shouldn't be taking sole blame?
I mean, like, this week is hard for me to say, like, oh, this was on the team and you. This week felt a little bit more on him. Like, he's behind a kick Sauber, like that's rough. That's a tough look, like you should have like, enough pace to get past Nico Hulkenberg, like when your teammate is on the podium, but I don't know. Like, I guess this week I would say it is on him, which it like doesn't surprise me. He's like, oh, this was my fault and everything like that. Like their strategy was overall good. Like it wasn't like a typical Ferrari weekend where it was just like, oh my gosh, you guys like mucked this up like really bad. Like it didn't happen like that, but like, I don't know what the hard thing for me is I wasn't really paying attention to him that much.
Yeah, that's fair. The reason why I say it is his fault is because he keeps listening to the team. And if you've learned anything about Ferrari in the last several years, it's that their drivers do the best when they don't listen to the team. Like Charles Leclerc proved it this weekend when he's like, hey, you know what? They really wanted me to focus on qualifying. It's a high tire degradation race. Like, I just wanted to focus on having the tires that I needed. I'm not going to take that extra run and, waste a set of tires. And then there's Lewis Hamilton who's like, no, I'm gonna do the extra run. I'm gonna put, one person in between me and Charles Leclerc. Leclerc starts in 7th, finishes in 3rd, has the extra set of tires, also doesn't get the floor damage. But like again, he was just faster. Like, yeah, Hamilton had better qualifying pace, but Leclerc had better race pace. And you saw that quite quickly when they were like, hey, switch the cars. I was actually impressed. It was like the one thing where I was like, holy cow, Ferrari's a competent race team. They actually just flipped the cars and they did it quickly. Like, good job, guys. A little attaboy for them. But like you go back to when Sainz won in Singapore, and they're like, hey, you keep giving Lando DRS, and he's like, yeah, it's deliberate. Like I know what I'm doing. I don't know if they understand racing. Like they understand cars to a point, but their strategy consistently seems to be wrong. And again, you watch and learn and listen to those drivers who came before you. They all go against Ferrari's strategies, and they seem to be more successful than not. So yes, it's Lewis Hamilton's fault for trusting Ferrari.
That's fair. Do you remember what the gap was before the safety car between the two of them? I don't know if you have that in your depth of knowledge or not, but like I'm looking at the ultimate results, and he is 5 seconds behind Leclerc.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can find it for you as we go through here.
Okay. But yeah, just like I mean, I do kind of like your take on that of like, hey, you're Lewis Hamilton. Just start doing what you want to do. I think you might see some better results than that. I feel like that would be rather interesting to kind of like, hey, we signed you for a reason, right? Like, we wanted you to be our driver because you can drive a car, not listen to your engineer or anything like that. Which I do feel like, Lewis's engineer at Mercedes did have a huge play into how his career did turn out, right? Like, you can't sell him short or anything like that. But, like, you know what to do. You should do things on your own. But that shouldn't be the case, for a driver. Like, that shouldn't have to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I just felt like it was interesting. Like, he was very critical of like the new technical directive of being like, this is a huge waste of money. Like, we're changing things by 5 millimeters. Like, this isn't that big of a deal. It's really, I don't know, just kind of interesting.
It's fair. What lap did the safety car come out? Do you remember?
58 or something like that.
Okay.
53.
53 was the safety car?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So on lap 52, Hamilton, let's see. On lap 52, Hamilton was on softs and ran a 1:18.645, and Leclerc was on mediums and ran a 1:19.831. Their gap between them at that point in time, I don't have completely in front of me as of yet, so I'll have to continue getting that. But like, you look at when they're on like the same tire, and Leclerc's got like 1 to 2 seconds in between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough to tell because like when they switch over, as soon as they're both like on lap 19, they're both on mediums. Lewis has been on him. It's his third lap. They're already warmed up. He's good to go. He was putting in like a 121.3, and Leclerc's putting in a 120.5. And then the gap kind of stabilizes to about anywhere from 2 to 4 tenths a lap.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's just pulling out time on him, lap after lap after lap. Like, I think ultimately it does, not even the tongue in cheek, like, hey, you're trusting Ferrari. He's just not fast. Maybe the car doesn't suit him. He picks up damage. I know that the Fred Vasseur came out and said that, although I feel like that's almost like the F1 equivalent of like in the NBA when they go, hey, by the way, this guy's dealing with a shoulder injury, so he's having some issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out afterwards, like, oh, hey, his knee doesn't work. Like LeBron James, they get bounced from the playoffs and he limps out and he's like, you guys didn't know it, but I was injured. But then 2 weeks later, he's doing the Dougie at his son's graduation. So I don't know how much I buy the floor was damaged.
Yeah.
No, it's just slow. But what also seemed to be slow was the impact that the F1 front wing technical directive had on the race.
Do you think it made a difference?
No, not at all.
Me neither.
I think that it actually might have made a slight difference. I think that's maybe why we saw the jumbled field,
Hmm.
um, where some of those teams like a Mercedes who are running a pretty aggressive front wing, had to change it. And I think that maybe it slowed them down a little bit, but I don't think that it made very much of a difference. Like maybe I don't know if Williams was running a pretty flexible one or not, but
Yeah.
I was surprised to see them out as well. So I think it made almost no difference. Lewis Hamilton said it was a waste of money and a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't like that's the thing is like I feel like it didn't have a huge impact and like it might have for like some of the other like midfield teams like where it kind of shook things up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't seem like anybody really benefited from it. Didn't seem like anybody really struggled with it. Which like was like okay, yeah, maybe these technical directives aren't that bad. Like okay, we can have these things change a little bit later on, but if it's not going to do much, why even change it, right? Like
Yep.
that's the
Yep.
thing is like, yeah, if it's not going to have like an astronomical change like for the field and like even before the weekend started or like during the free practices, people are like, "Oh, look at the McLarens. Look at the McLarens. They are going to be way ahead of everybody," which, it's already been happening. So like people are like, yeah, this is going to change so much. And that ended up changing to me like nothing, which I found interesting. The one thing I'm curious about is what the heck is going on with the Mercedes power unit? I don't understand it. Like the McLarens are using it, but the only person that seems to have an issue with it is Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah, right. A little bit of
And
maybe
like,
a little
well,
sabotage
the
there.
Williams, the Williams last week as well. Like they have a Mercedes engine. Like I don't know what's going on there, and I don't know if you have any insight on that either. But
No, no insight as of yet. I think it'll be interesting to hear as they come out. It'll be um, something that they need to monitor though, because this is twice now for Kimi Antonelli, right?
mm-hmm. Is it
Um,
twice in the past two races? No, three,
three
two out of
races.
three. Yeah, because Monaco. I honestly just erased it from my memory.
Yeah, and so like I think that that's something that they're going to have to pay attention to because I think they're what do you get four? I think it's four power units. And depending on what failed in it, um, yeah, the internal combustion engine you get four of, and so he's already gone through two. He can't even use those from his pool. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and maybe they can fix them. I'm depending on what went wrong with them, but I think that'll be interesting. But it seems though, like if I'm Mercedes, I'm also going, hey, we gave McLaren an engine and it's destroying everybody. Like the engine works, it just for whatever reason, you know, Kimmy's been bitten by the bad luck bug.
Yeah, I feel bad for him.
I know you're a big Kimmy fan.
Yeah.
Um, but so do you think anybody else like benefited or struggled from that front wing?
Not really. I think maybe the Williams did a little bit. I mean, Carlos Sainz had the worst ever qualifying at his home race ever. Um, Alex Albon having issues with the car, right? There's like a whole lot that kind of went on to it where I feel like they kind of struggled with it a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
that also was like relative of like I don't have the data in front of me and I can't tell what was really kind of causing those issues for those two.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like going back to just for a second because I got some clarification here. Um, it's just a penalty. So if you go like if you exceed the amount of power units or
Yeah.
anything like
It's
that,
like
it's
10 places,
15
right?
grid places, and then
Ooh.
if um if it exceeds that, then you just start from the back of the field. So I think that happened with Verstappen a couple of years ago. At a certain point, like when we had the issue, I think it was last year actually, when we were having issues with their power units at the beginning of the year, and then
Mm-hmm.
eventually they kind of got that sorted out. But it led into Verstappen having one of the greatest races ever when he started from the back and then won the race. So, but yeah, I don't know if anybody really like didn't benefit from it a lot. I mean, One team that kind of makes me think of it is also Haas. Like they struggled all weekend as well.
Yeah, they
They
were on my list.
clearly lacked like all the pace in the world. Like Behrman, had an okay result, but he got a 10-second time penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. So he ended up in 17th. Esteban
Hmm.
Ocon was in 16th. So I think that they probably struggled the most. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had Haas down as well. I think you nailed it. No need to belabor the point.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, then let's not belabor this next part either. Let's get into it and get out of it real quick.
Yeah.
Time for everybody's least favorite part of the show. Let's do our prediction review.
Okay. Yeah, let's go over them. And there wasn't a lot of success from the Keepster this weekend. So I flew in it with high hopes of predicting, my qualifying and my podium, and I let that affect all the rest of my bets, and it was terrible. But there were some things that kind of threw a wrench into it as well. So just going back to it for qualifying, you had Verstappen, Piastri, and Norris. I also tagged along with you on that, just given Verstappen's kind of history with the track.
Yep.
The pace of the the McLarens felt like it was a sure thing. We weren't that far off, right? Like we went from Piastri, Norris to Verstappen. So we weren't that far off. We just kind of had everything a little backwards, but 3 strikes and you're out for both of us there.
Amen. What about
Podium?
I think we both said the same thing for the podium too, right?
The podium, you actually scored a point.
I did?
Yeah.
Let's go.
You said Verstappen, Piastri, and Leclerc.
Let's go.
So you should be happy that Max Verstappen opened up this business of bumper cars because you have now scored a point from it. So
he was never getting third. Leclerc was always getting third. Just stop it.
Okay,
you're
fine.
insane.
I'll give it to you. Yeah, and then my podium was Verstappen, Piastri, Norris. That was a swing and a miss. Your last point was Carlos Sainz. Where did he end up?
Not
14th?
in
14th?
Yeah. He did not end up in 10th place, I can tell you that. 14th. He was 29.3 seconds behind. He was only like 8.5 seconds behind Max.
Yeah. So
who was your last place point?
My last place point was Esteban Ocon, who got 16th. So
second from the last of those who finished.
Yeah. So that happened. There's just a lot of red in my column right now.
What about
last place? I had Calapinto, which wasn't a terrible bet. You went with Gabriel Bortoleto. So both of us missed out there as well. We kind of went with Old Reliable for that one.
Real quick, I was preparing an argument because it looked like Calapinto might finish last. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to figure out if I could argue effectively that Lance Stroll got last place.
Nope. I mean,
I think it's got to be drivers that take the grid, right?
Yeah, he didn't race. Yeah, so
you
I would
at least got to do a
given
formation lap or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that was the interesting thing when I hopped on the website and I was like looking at the results and kind of looking at the timings and everything like that. I'm like, Lance Stroll's not even on here. Like it's just weird. So like, yeah, I think if anything happens like that again where somebody doesn't race, I think we just go with who's that 19th car. Which in this case, it would have been Alex Albon. So
you got to at least approach the grid on race day.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. And then what were best bets? What do we have going on there?
Your best bet was the pole sitter is going to win the race.
Man, I'm crushing it. Is this 2 points for me?
I mean, I guess that's 2 points total for you. I might have to be a little bit harsher on you for that one, being like,
that's a best bet. Like that's just
I get it, yeah, but it's a matter of phrasing because if we went technically, you said that Verstappen was going to get the pole position, but
yes, but I said the pole sitter, whoever gets pole will win the race.
That's fine. You're smart.
I took a law class. I can argue the semantics.
Yeah, I can't beat you on that argument there. So
so
you get a point there.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, you would beat me. You could probably be correct. I'll just be stubborn and won't admit it.
And just to give everybody a total too, we have a running tally of our predictions, and
it's really close.
It is close. It's about as close as Ferrari and Mercedes at this point,
Oh, that's actually really close.
Yeah, it's not bad, right? Like I have 18 total points, and you have 12. So we're only 6 off. It could be, one weekend, and you could get all of them right, and we're neck and neck again.
Well, to be fair, it's you and Grok versus me. So
okay, yeah.
All right. What about long shot bet?
Well, my best bet was Verstappen podium and McLaren podium, and then I put in parentheses really Max ? Because that's just come on, man. Like I could have had it. That's why maybe why I'm holding on to it so much is like, yes, I could have had that point, and that's where my ego is just kind of struggling to admit that. So long shot bets. I had a wild take this week, and I tried to predict the top 5, and I went Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, Hamilton. Nobody is in the correct position. So yeah, that's rough. And then your long shot was Alonso points, which would have hit, and then both Williams in the top 10, which did not happen.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, there's nothing much you can do.
Yeah, well, apparently I can't do anything right. By the way, just a real quick thing for you. I was messing around on the website that we use to look at data, and I was comparing the fastest laps between Leclerc and Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
Both of their, I compared the lap 62 for both of them because that was their fastest lap. Leclerc was almost half a second ahead.
Yeah, that's not great then.
Yeah. Hamilton loses a lot of time going into turn 10 and a lot of time going into turn 1 as well. So it's pretty interesting there. In terms of looking at that telemetry. But anyways, that's that. Okay, so Ryan, I'm closing the gap. But why don't we real quick before we get out of here, let's go over best and worst weekend.
Best drive, easy for me. Oscar Piastri. I mean,
oh, okay.
You could give it to him every week if you wanted to, out of 5 of the weeks. Like, no mistakes. He's doing what he needs to do. That's my answer. I don't really feel like I need to explain myself.
I think you do, because myself and Nico Hülkenberg are quite offended.
He would be my close second.
What was the stat I sent you? It was Nico Hülkenberg has scored more points. He scored more points yesterday than Red Bull's second car in 2025. Yeah. So
that is crazy. That is a wild stat.
Yeah. And again, he's driving a motorized brick.
It's pretty much a John Deere tractor.
John Deere tractor looks better, though, according to you.
True. So, and you might as well go all green.
But yeah, I think he did. I think he did a great job. Really took advantage in qualifying, and I said that tongue in cheek because he did not qualify well, but he just absolutely took advantage in the actual race on the start, and then just kind of put the car up there and just held on quite admirably. And then Verstappen, and now he's in 5th. What about worst drive? I feel like we have the same one.
I said it last week, and I'm going to say it again this week. Yuki Tsunoda.
Oh,
I think Verstappen's obviously my second, maybe. I don't know. Just because of, the move he decided to make, which I did send you a video of his onboard. I do have that footage for you. So if you wanted to look at that, there's his onboard. He does not, and I will say this right now, you can see him turning his steering wheel to the left. So he wasn't just driving straight, like we said. So, but yeah, I have a hard time, like, this is my confliction. I think the Red Bull car is terrible. I think it is on par probably with the Williams. Like, it is bad. And And I think whoever has that second Red Bull seat is just going to kind of be the, like kind of like how maybe we can see Checo as a scapegoat last year, where it just isn't possible to drive unless you are one of the greatest drivers ever, right? Like, but to me, like he's got to figure it out, right? It's the second time that the second Red Bull car has qualified 20th this year, right? He even said, and this is what really struck me the like the wrong way, and maybe like this might help you Yuki fans out there. Yuki literally was going into the garage and said, I felt like that was my best lap of the year.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that just shows, hey, this is a bad car. So I if I could just give it to the second Red Bull seat, I would, and not put Yuki's name attached to that. But yeah, I need to see more because Verstappen is literally driving by himself out there.
Okay. I'm going to give it to Williams.
Yeah.
I think that really disappointing weekend for them. Albon doesn't finish the race. Sainz was nowhere near the pace all weekend long. Albon didn't get into Q3. I think that's actually, it tells you kind of where we're at with Williams now, that's a disappointment. And I struggled whether or not to give it to him in terms of, we talked about before when we did our 1-word reviews or 3-word reviews, I said they were focused on next year. But so I really struggled, like, hey, is it really that bad of a drive if they're kind of actively not caring about this year? But I think that they belong in this spot because we've grown to expect more of them. I think they expect more of themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think how they handle these weekends where they feel like maybe points would have been on the cards if they had been focusing on this year will really kind of dictate how far they can go next year. Right. If they get frustrated with that and they kind of start leaning a little bit into car development this year, I think that's a bad place for them to be. But I think that overall it was just disappointing. Home race for Carlos Sainz. Albon had a nice streak of Q3 appearances, and it all just kind of fell apart. And they had to retire the car. He got a 10-second time penalty as well that he had to serve. I was happy that they at least sent the car out again. They served the time penalty, had him do a lap, and then came back in, so it doesn't move on to the next race. But yeah, just a bad weekend for them overall.
Yeah, I cannot disagree with you there.
Well, thanks, man. We got a bad weekend coming up this week because there's no race this weekend.
No race.
Yeah.
What do we got planned for the folks, though?
We are going to be talking about the FIA's penalty problems, right? And the stewards. So we're going to look at trying to fix some of these problems. What are the issues? Are they fixable? And then on early next week, before we do our preview episode, we're going to be talking about that's just our timer. We're going to be talking about the remarks that Mohammed Ben Sulayem made as to whether or not it's fair how much money teams and drivers are making. So, should be a good time. So make sure that you interact with us. Please send us some messages, and we have some ideas. And again, shout out to that listener. You know who you are. Yeah. I think you gave some really good advice there. We're just two dudes doing this because we enjoy it. And so if you have advice or things like that, we will listen to it. And if we think it's good advice, we'll try and implement it.
Yep. And we'll see. Maybe we can talk a little bit about Aston Martin too in the next couple of weeks once we get some clarification on the longevity of Lance Stroll's injury. So,
well, I don't know how much you're going to be available to talk since you'll be in the simulator probably, trying to get ready for Canada.
True. Yeah. I do need to buy the new game if anybody wants to send me $79 for the new F1 game.
That's the other thing that we're going to do at some point is we will review the game.
Yeah. And we're probably going to go to a sim too at a certain point too.
So you're in trouble then.
That'll be fun.
All right. Well, Ryan, it's been great talking to you, buddy.
It's been a pleasure. I almost said the S word, Steve.
And I called you Ryan. I'm sorry. Kusker. My bad, buddy.
Coach Bell. It's been a pleasure.
Coach McHugh.
We'll see you guys a little bit later this week.